Hi friends, welcome to Madhubun's channel. So today we are here with Ms. Ruma Purkayastha, who's a seasoned academician and has been in leadership role in schools for years together, and with her more than a 3 decade background in teaching and leading schools to greater heights. She has accomplished a lot with the students as well as the teachers. She's not only mentored the students and the teachers, but also the parents of the schools. She's a child psychologist and she guides students through the challenging times. So, hi, Ruma ma'am, how are you?
Good morning. Hello.
Ruma ma'am, today we are all here, and I wanted to discuss with you that role of the teacher is changing. You've been in the education sector for more than 4 decades, and I'm sure you've seen this change happening gradually. But the post-COVID era has seen a drastic and dramatic change. So, how is this role of a teacher changing today, or has changed already?
Well, good morning. Good to be here. And you've asked me to speak on a topic which is very close to my heart. Yes, roles keep changing over time. There's no doubt about that. What we saw of children 5 years ago, things are different now. So teachers have to constantly adapt to change. That goes without saying. However, as you pointed out, the role of the teacher in the last decade has really undergone change, and post COVID, more so. You see, if you look at the traditional view, what did we say? We would say she's a giver of knowledge.
Hmm.
Goes into class, has her lessons,
Right.
teaches. Knowledge is passed on. Children have understood. That was it. That was her job. It's not like that anymore. We've all changed now, from being, like there's this saying, no, we've moved from being a sage on a stage to a guide on the side. So now, we've got words like facilitator, mentor, coach, guide, and many, many more. But the point is, each of those words have a meaning, they have a bearing. Because teaching has changed, children have changed, the world has changed. And because of which, teachers have had no reason but not to change. However, I would here like to point out that today I think the teachers have too many stakeholders that they have to answer to. Everybody voices their opinion, everybody wants to talk. While, yes, teaching now looks at the social needs, it looks at inclusivity, it looks at diverse learners, and lots more, which we probably will come to later. The demands on the teacher are a lot more. She's
True.
expected to be so many things. And somewhere down the line, I feel not all get paid enough. Not they don't get the kind of time that they need for personal growth, which is leading to challenges within the families, which is leading to dipping motivation and a vicious circle where we are all blaming each other.
That's true.
So that I feel is a change that should not happen, whereas the nicer things that have happened are always welcome. But everything goes with a pro and a con, no?
Ma'am, that's so true, and that's so well said. That the generation has changed, and the expectations of from a teacher has changed,
Yeah.
and they've changed drastically. At the same time, ma'am, a lot of discussion is happening around ownership in learning. So, how do teachers contribute to the ownership? If I say students do need to take the ownership, then what is the role of a teacher?
Okay, let's look at it this way first. When
Hmm.
we talk about the classroom or when we talk about the teacher, we have shifted now from delivering content or whatever to enabling,
Hmm.
isn't it? So now a teacher is supposed to enable, she's supposed to foster, etc., etc. No, but all these words have a bearing because now I feel when we talk about even knowledge, the concept of knowledge has changed.
That's
It's more to do with thinking. And thinking now is not just thought as a thought, it's more like a set of cognitive strategies. You know, okay, thinking means logical reasoning, analyzing, critical thinking, etc., etc., creativity, allow for curiosity to develop. We can go on and on. So thinking per se has changed. So the concept of knowledge has changed. Now, when
Mm.
the concept of knowledge has changed and we are looking at social emotional needs, we're looking at health, we're looking at the cultural narrative, ownership is also shifting. But before I shift the ownership to children, I'd like to just point out one little thing, that teachers themselves have to understand that they are learners, that they have to continue learning. Learning doesn't stop. So, if as a teacher I take ownership of what I'm doing in the class, if I'm fostering, I'm facilitating, I'm coaching, I'm mentoring, the environment will be enabled. In an enabled environment, children will learn to take ownership of what they are doing. Now, ownership is a big word. We can, sort of break it down into self-directed learning, self-determined learning. I know where I'm going. I know what I want to do. To be able to do that, I should be able to think. So that is what is ownership. So if we provide opportunities in the classroom for all learners, we do activities, as I said, the cultural narrative where, we are now bringing in a lot of cultural relevance. So
Mm.
education as per the place that you are in, we're linking it to that. The use of the mother tongue, the local language, where the child feels empowered
Right.
because he's able to understand. She's able to figure out the festivity in her neighborhood, able to articulate about it. So obviously there's a sense of empowerment. With empowerment, the understanding will be better. When I understand and I know what I want, I will start taking ownership. My environment will be enabled. So I think teachers, if they look at it this way, we are, many places it is already happening. We are able to get children to take ownership of their learning. I was reading somewhere, one of the famous educators has said this, that a lot of teachers go into teaching thinking that they're going to shape the children or shape whom they teach, but actually they discover themselves.
That is so true. And ma'am, also, so I have been a teacher for a very short time, and I realized that there were concepts which you don't understand as a student, but the moment you begin teaching, they suddenly become very clear.
Yes, absolutely.
Ma'am, when we say enabling the students, and we have to, the teacher has become an enabler now,
Mhm.
right? So in this role, in this responsibility, which is the new responsibility today for the teacher, how does a teacher cope up? What are those small steps, one or two steps she can take to, plan differently? Like you've told a few of them, like activities in the classrooms and other things. But those few things, because I'm sure a lot of teachers will struggle understanding what is being an enabler or how it is enabling the students. They all understand the sage on the stage.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So when I talk about enabling environment and what the teacher can do, I think we first need to understand that the role of a teacher has also shifted. Earlier we used to say she's a visionary, she's a role model, she's there, all that stays. It hasn't gone away anywhere and it will not go anywhere. But I think if we just look at their roles slightly differently, one is that she's a mediator in the learning process. Okay?
Because this knowledge is everywhere.
Yeah, so she's a mediator. So when there are 20 children in my class, I am mediating, no, between the content and the human mind in front of me. So she's a mediator, she or he is a mediator. The teacher also has to learn to interpret the content around,
Hmm.
interpret the learning programs as we call them, because there's knowledge everywhere, there's content everywhere. So one has to learn to sieve the content that I use. I always say every teacher is a leader, every teacher is an administrator. You can't skip that. You're a learner because you're learning, which makes you a scholar, lifelong learning, and all that we say. A teacher also supports a community. Because nowadays, when we talk about, a horizontal connectedness between subjects,
Hmm.
the relevance of a geography lesson to a math lesson to a language lesson to an art and craft. So, which is a broad-based learning that is happening.
That's true.
So she needs to understand that as a teacher, I can't just say that, look, this is my subject and I will not do anything more. I may not go beyond. I may not, go into deep, sort of great details and great understanding. But I do need to have a basic idea about all the other things that is happening. Of course,
That's
and the teacher is a subject specialist. So if the teacher is doing all these things and she's understanding this, she will be able to enable the environment. She can provide opportunities, build accordingly, plan for diverse learners, because planning is a very, very integral part of what I do. Without
that's true.
planning, without feedback, as a teacher, I can go nowhere. So when
Very
you
true.
plan, when you meet people, when you meet parents, all the stakeholders together. So the teacher is actually somewhere in the middle and she's dealing with all the stakeholders around them. So there's no reason why she will not be able to discharge her responsibilities of creating enabling environment and encouraging ownership in children.
And I think, ma'am, today very rightly said that she has to mediate the learning between the students.
Yes.
And today, with a lot of integrated learning being talked about, yes, she should be aware of everything. And in the beginning, you said at some point that they don't have enough time to work on their personal growth as well, since they're doing multiple roles and the role has become more demanding now. I think so many tools are available, and the students are also, like we said, knowledge is everywhere. So students have that access. Teachers can always use students. They can get the students to explore and then discuss it in the classrooms.
That is what, when you plan, when you are planning properly and you plan on something and you delegate work, and the children come back with the work. The only thing is that when you are delegating the work, you need to know very carefully what is it I'm delegating. What kind of research am I asking children to do?
What
Because
do I want to accomplish
yes,
by
my end goal, my objective should be very clear. That
right?
this is my objective and this is how I will go about it. And I cannot give out work in, by itself or something that I don't know about, that you find out and come. No, I need to at least know, and then I learn along with them. So
Right,
you see,
right,
now
right.
what is happening when you give out a project or when you give out work, gone are the days when I could just give it out. You have to actually read up, know something yourself before you give it to the children. Which is why I said that, as teachers, one becomes a scholar because you're constantly reading.
Constantly learning. You're learning new things, you're exposed.
Exactly.
And I always say teachers never grow old because they're
Yeah.
living with the young generation.
Children.
And they need to
Oh,
even,
yes.
I'll also say they even need to know their lingos. So there
Yes.
are a lot of
Especially if you're
Instagram
teaching,
reels.
if you're dealing with teenagers, it's very good. You
Right.
may use it, you may not encourage it.
But you need to know it. You will not
But you need
encourage it,
to know
but
it.
you need to know it
Know
so
it.
that you can connect with the students. That's
It's like uh, wish a teacher when you cross her or him. And earlier it would be good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever. Now, in many places, children turn around and say hi.
mm,
Now, someone may say that, look, this child is disrespecting me because he says hi. Now, I would say that I don't think the child is disrespecting you. The child is acknowledging you, is wishing you. It's just that you need to tell the child that, look, child, I would rather be wished by, say a good morning and not a hi. Maybe you can keep that hi for your friends if you are particular. If you're okay with hi, then there's no problem. See, it'll also depend on the school ethos and the school vision and etc. etc.
See, I think hi and good morning doesn't matter. But like you said, if a teacher is particular, she can revert with a hi.
Yeah,
That's what
the,
a student
yeah, the
today would
point I
also
was
say.
trying to make is that why do we look at it as disrespect?
Ha, that's true.
It's with the changing role, it's with the changing time.
That's right.
The student may
Times
not
have
be
changed.
disrespecting you.
Today, ma'am, the definition and the meaning of disrespect for children has changed. And I think a very small thing that I have come across recently with one of the teenagers in my household is where he says that no, just because I'm disagreeing with you does not mean I'm
Yes,
disrespecting you.
absolutely.
It is just that I have my own opinion.
So, Imani, here I would like to say that, you know, gone are the days when we said, respect me. I also need to respect the child.
Yeah, that's true.
Because, There was a time when, we never associated words like respect, vulnerability, all these things with children. But yeah,
True.
but we've reached a point where we've begun to recognize, and we should recognize that they are individuals and humans with the same emotions as you and me.
Rather with emotions without the knowledge of managing them.
Exactly.
As adults, we still develop that sense, that skill of managing. They don't know.
So that is why this whole input nowadays, the stress on social emotional development. Because as an enabler in your class, you have to get children to understand emotions,
True, true.
help them to be able to express the emotions, to be
That's
able
right.
to label the emotions so that they know culturally what is accepted and what is not accepted. There was a time you grew up obediently. Okay, this is to be done, this is not to be done. Now you need to explain, and you should explain.
You should. You should. And ma'am,
Ownership will
earlier,
come in then. Then also
very
ownership will come in, because when I understand
true, true.
and I internalize, I will actually ownership will come. Then no, I don't think I should do this.
Ma'am, see, initially when we used to obey our elders without questioning, that is the times when myths were developed. कि ये ऐसे ही होता है. No, this is how. Today the children question why.
No.
Why is it like that? Why ऐसे ही होता है?
So
Why is
that
that?
is why I feel that when we have been harping on this enabler, I feel as enablers, one has to understand this. That
Hmm.
allow children to ask.
Very
Even if you don't know the answer, allow. So that's why, see, now when we come back to the topic in question, changing role of a teacher. So the teacher herself or himself has to be well read, has
right,
to understand the students in front of them, has
right.
to understand himself or herself, and know where
That's
you're coming from. These basic things were not given importance earlier. Earlier, it
that.
was you knew your subject matter, you went into class, you taught, you answered, you checked the notebooks, they got their grades, and that was it. Of course, I mean, not literally so tight, but it was a very tight program. But
And a lot of parts of this still continue, but
yeah,
in a different format
yeah.
today.
See, it's like the curriculum does not change.
Hmm.
The children don't change, but the teachers have to change to be able to get the curriculum, sort of expended in the classroom. I mean, how you bring in the curriculum into your school.
That's true. That's true. Ma'am, there's been a new word now since we've been talking of enabler and all of these things. A word VUCA.
Yes. What do you think VUCA is?
So I mean, I've heard VUCA for adults in corporates, but
Yeah,
today
but
when it's coming to schools,
you know,
that is
actually, I think, we should look at vulnerability as a strength.
hmm.
In our schools or
Ma'am, it's
wherever,
easy said, but
I
it's very
agree. I
difficult.
agree it's easier said than done. But a little thick point that I'd like to make is, we always tell children that don't be so vulnerable. Don't be so
Hmm.
sensitive. People will bully you. People will
Yeah,
do this. People will do that. Generally we say all this. But I do feel that somewhere we should allow the child, while the child should be made conscious of not being bullied and not, I don't think we should do away with somebody's vulnerability, because if you're vulnerable, you're sensitive. If you're sensitive, you're empathetic. If you're empathetic, you'll have compassion, and the universe needs compassion. So, VUCA actually translates to an environment which is volatile, an environment which is uncertain, an environment that's complex and ambiguous. So, if you see volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, a child is faced with these, no? So, all the more reason where we have to look at a very humanistic approach to children.
right.
That's why, uh, teachers enabler, of course, like I'm harping on it. But yes, to be able to understand those children, to be able to add children across, not just little children, but right up to 17, 18. to be able to help them, to be help them to understand themselves, to understand what is it they want in life, to understand what is success.
True, true.
Because I feel nowadays success has got equated with your pay packet,
That's true.
which is
Especially with
again
this generation.
again with and why this generation, the parents of this generation.
Parents of this generation also. I also come from the same one. But yes, I agree.
Yeah,
I
so
agree. It
that is
has
what is VUCA. And when I came across this word first time, it really set me thinking that yes, children are faced with VUCA. We are all
and
faced with VUCA, but as adults we can handle it, I suppose.
no, ma'am, I'll add to this here that I'm very happy today on understanding from you about Puka. And I'll say this as a parent, as a child also, or as a student from a school, that in life it is very important to be prepared to deal with VUCA,
Yeah.
right? Volatility, uncertainty, complex situations, and
Yeah.
ambiguity, right?
Yeah.
Because life is actually this.
Yes,
Life
absolutely.
is this throughout till you live or you
Life,
survive.
absolutely,
Not
absolutely.
only in a certain age, but that age in school time, those 10, 15, 20 years is something where you develop a sense of everything.
Absolutely. It's the foundation.
It's a foundation. So either you learn to deal with it or you learn to run away from it or just say, I don't know. But the real test comes for this after 20 when you face the real.
So that's why it's important to develop those life skills
Yes.
that the government is
And
talking
then life
about.
doesn't let you teach it. Life makes you bitter.
Yes. So it's good to have these skills, no? You can hone them as you grow older.
Yes.
In fact, I would just like to end with this line which says that, today we don't need more followers.
Hmm.
What we need are individuals who can think and act with confidence and responsibility. So that's how the role of the teacher has been changing.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Very beautifully said. And with what ma'am said, the last sentence that ma'am just shared, that we don't need more followers, but more confident thinkers. I think teachers, let's take this as our end goal. That let us today not focus on children, developing children who get 90% and 100%. Instead of making children confident thinkers, not just followers, are neither ones looking for followers,
Yeah.
right? So both ways. Let's take that as a target. Let's take that as our success factor. And this is how the role of a teacher has changed today. And wishing every teacher good luck for this new role. And Madhuban is always there to handhold you all along the way, wherever you need our support and help. And stay tuned for more such sessions with ma'am and a lot seasoned educators. Thank you so much, Ruma ma'am, for connecting on this call. Thank you, everyone. We'll keep in touch.